Namaste, Pratima here. So the new Galaxy S24 Ultra has been the most hyped and the most talked about phone of this year. It has broken all its pre-booking records globally and has seen a record 2.5 lakh pre-bookings in India in just 3 days of its launch, making it the most successful S-series phone ever. I have been daily driving the S24 Ultra for more than 3 weeks now, and the reason why people are absolutely loving this phone is that it is now a complete package that Android has ever offered. You see, Samsung has been making the best Android phones for the past 8 or 9 years, but it was never perfect. We have seen Bixby not being effective, Samsung's TouchWiz, the UI was just terrible, its in-house Exynos chipsets were always a mixed bag, and iPhone was always ahead in terms of cameras. Rolling back to this timeline, every little issue Samsung flagship phones had before has been perfected to excellence with every generation. And last year's S23 Ultra was a great example of how good Samsung's flagship phones have become. This phone is just amazing even to this day. But this year, Samsung had to do something different. Usually during the launch event, Samsung talks about how great their display is or how you can zoom the camera and take moonshots. But this year, they spent a considerable amount of the entire keynote explaining AI on a smartphone. And this new collaboration with Google to bring Pixel-like AI features to the S24 series is just brilliant. Anyway, let me start the review with my experience with the AI features first, and here the circle to search is one I have been using a lot. Trust me, it's not a gimmicky feature that's fun to use at first and then you never use it again. This is also the most intuitive UI implementation I've seen after a long time on Android phones. The more you use it, you will be addicted to it. And while this feature is currently available only on Galaxy S24 series and Pixel 8 series, I do hope this feature gets rolled out on all Android smartphones very soon. Moving on, I found live translation of phone calls to be kind of a hit or a miss, but it did translate with like 80 to 90% accuracy from English to Hindi and vice versa, which is impressive, I have to say. Like 10 to 20% of the time, it was not very accurate. For instance, my Indian friend told me, Zarur aiye, which should translate to you must come, but it says yes, it must have come. But with more and more data being fed to the algorithm, it should not take a long time for Samsung to master it. By the way, you can use this feature from a Galaxy S24 to any Android phone and even iPhones. Similar to Live Translate, speech-to-text transcription, summarizing web pages and notes, removing and repositioning objects in photos also worked with 80 to 90% accuracy in my test. By the way, all these AI features are only free until the end of 2025, post which you may be required to pay subscription fees of sorts. All these AI features I just discussed will only be rolling out to the 2023 Samsung flagship through an update though. Sadly, none of the devices launched in 2022 will make the cut. Alright, I think I have bored you enough with all the AI talk, so let's get back to the basics. Design first, and like the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the S24 Ultra also gets titanium frames, which if you don't know yet is lighter and more robust than aluminium. Plus, this might be a very small detail, but I like this matte frame as opposed to the glossy one we had before. However, coming from the S23 Ultra to the S24 Ultra, you will not feel any difference in the heft or the design language. It still has the same boxy form factor with sharp corners, this clean camera module, and a matte finish at the back. And this is still a pretty big phone for someone with small hands like me, but overall the S24 Ultra is a well-built phone. It has survived Jerry Rig's bend test, and you also get a new Gorilla Glass armor protection, which is slightly better scratch resistant and has wickedly good anti-reflection and glare control. So whenever I was using this phone under direct sunlight or any other bright lights for that matter, those annoying reflections were quite minimal. This is actually a small quality of life improvement which one should definitely admire. Now, talking about the display, for some reason I found that in the vivid mode the S24 Ultra was not as vibrant as the S23 Ultra. However, Samsung has acknowledged this issue and the company is currently working now to fix this issue with an update. Regardless, the S24 Ultra still has the best display on any smartphone right now and has even bagged the top spot in DxOMark's display test. Yeah, it does not get as bright as some of the Chinese phones, but the color calibration you get on Samsung's flagships is just top-notch. The touch here is brilliant and its brightness can get quite low too, but more importantly, you don't have any curves on the sides this time around, which I think is the right move. To make this display even better, I do hope Samsung brings 10 or 12-bit color depth onto its next product. And second, they should bring high PWM dimming as you get with Chinese phones. If you're sensitive to flickering in low brightness, high PWM dimming solves that issue. Samsung did improve the PWM rate from 240Hz to 492Hz with the S24 Ultra, but it still is miles behind what you get with the competition. Battery wise, I am getting a solid 1-day usage with screen time very similar to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, so that's nice. Charging the phone, of course, it's still quite slower here, both wired and wirelessly. I completely understand this because Samsung wants to prioritize battery health over a longer run, and by the way, Samsung is also promising 7 years of updates on this phone versus maybe 3 or 4 years you get with most Chinese phones. I am not sure if such form factors will stay relevant in years to come because of how foldables are adopting, but longer software support means you will still get a decent resale value if you decide to sell or exchange your phone in the future. However, I would have really liked it if Samsung could bring a silicon carbon battery that ensures more reliable performance in various tough conditions as well as increased power density, which means you can fit a bigger battery in a smaller surface area similar to the upcoming Honor Magic 6 Pro. Okay, performance. Like every other Android flagship, you get the latest and greatest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset here with 12 gigs of DDR5X RAM and super fast UFS 4.0 storage. So everything here is super smooth and super reliable, starting from unlocking the phone with an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor to multitasking to app opening or doodling with the S Pen. The typing experience here is also excellent with precise and pleasing feedback. You will also enjoy watching movies and listening to music here because of its fantastic speakers. Samsung has also almost doubled the vapor chamber cooling system as compared to the S23 Ultra. Hence, you can see from this chart, everything from stability, FPS in games, and temperatures are better on the S24 Ultra versus the S23 Ultra. However, if you're a gamer, like if you play a lot of games like PUBG Mobile as I do, iPhones are still the best. For instance, if there are a lot of players in a certain zone in PUBG Mobile, I found the S24 Ultra to struggle a bit with slight lags, while the iPhone 15 Pro Max is a bit more optimized. This is the reason why all of my professional PUBG player friends use iPhones to play competitive matches. It's not that the S24 Ultra does not have capable hardware. In fact, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3's GPU is more powerful than the A17 Pro, but game developers have always optimized iPhones better than any Android phone. Alright, let's talk about the camera side of things now. Last year's S23 Ultra was a great camera phone in its own right, and this year too you can expect the same from Samsung. I compared the S24 Ultra's cameras with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I am quite pleased to see Samsung's results. In 60% of the images I took during dawn, I found the S24 Ultra balancing dynamic range better than the iPhone. During daytime, both phones are pretty neck to neck, but for some reason the iPhone 15 Pro Max produces really warm images which don't look pleasing all the time. For instance, look at this image. Babaji looks so unnaturally warm from iPhone, while Samsung can process the image much better. The same is the case with ultra-wide-angle photos. Samsung is able to balance the color tone better, while iPhone is splashing warm tones all over. Detail-wise, whether it is normal or ultra-wide-angle photos, both phones are equally good. Moving on, Samsung has also included a 5x optical zoom lens this time around, getting rid of the 10x one they had before. And well, I will give pass marks for trying in this regard because with this, the S24 Ultra can take 5x portraits, which are quite nice actually. But still, I found my iPhone doing better here. There's this unique depth and sharpness in 5x portraits from the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which Samsung is not being able to achieve. To be fair, just like in normal images, Samsung takes better portraits against the sun. However, besides that, it's the iPhone that gives consistently good portraits through and through. Not just portraits, regular 5x images are also sharper and more consistent from the iPhone 15 Pro Max as compared to the S24 Ultra. However, beyond 5x, we have Samsung as the clear winner, even though it is also digitally cropping in like the iPhone. But last year's S23 Ultra had a 10x dedicated lens, so I am getting better 10x shots from it than the S24 Ultra. But what I like about the S24 Ultra this year is that there are plenty of options to choose from for portraits, from 1x, 2x, 3x to 5x, whereas you don't have that 3x lens on the iPhone. I think the 3x lens is a good middle point because to take 5x portraits, I have to go far away from the subject, and the 1x or 2x portraits don't provide you with that natural bokeh either. Regardless, in the 2x portraits, I prefer Samsung over iPhone. Just look at my sister's portrait here. Samsung has been able to process the highlights so much better than the iPhone. Likewise, I prefer the selfies from Samsung over iPhone as well. iPhone selfies are a bit dark and contrasty for my taste, while although a little processed, the S24 Ultra is able to optimize the shadows on the face better and bring out a nice output most of the time. I even tried clicking some macro pictures from both, and you can see both phones are excellent here, no complaints. Now, talking about nighttime photos, well, both phones do a really nice job with superb details and sharpness. Here too, iPhone's tendency to bring out warm images makes the output too yellow or warm sometimes. On the other hand, Samsung has a predominant cool tone all over its nighttime images. For me, sometimes it was Samsung that looks better, while the other times iPhone did better, especially in pictures where a bit of warmth was required, like this Bauta Stupa. Ultra wide-angle nighttime photos are better on the iPhone, no doubt, and even when turning on night mode, I found Samsung processing everything a bit too much. So just a little tip, if you decide to get the S24 Ultra, you will get better images without night mode processing. Okay, let's talk about videos now, and I have to say Samsung has done a great job this time, whether it is while maintaining smoothness in videos or giving an option to switch between lenses while shooting 4K 60 FPS footages. However, shooting normal videos at 4K, I still find that smoothness to be better and more consistent on iPhone instead. Not by much, but just a little bit. It's the same in the ultra wide angle videos as well, especially during low light. I do appreciate that you can not only switch between rear camera lenses while shooting 4K 60 FPS from Samsung, but you can also switch to the selfie camera as well, which, by the way, even the iPhone 15 Pro Max cannot do. I think vloggers out there will definitely appreciate this feature. At the same time, Samsung lets you shoot slow modes at 4K 120 FPS as well, which is much better and sharper than the measly 1080p 240 FPS on the iPhone. Again, if we compare the 1080p results, the iPhone's output is sharper, but at 4K, Samsung just takes the crown. Overall, I think both these devices are great camera phones and you cannot go wrong with either of them. On a different note, I recently conducted a blind camera test on my website between the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, whose link I have included in the description. So from this result, I found out that almost 55% of the people liked Samsung's photos more, whereas the remaining liked iPhone. So yeah, both phones are pretty neck to neck when it comes to camera performance. Okay, so time to wrap up this video, and if you're eyeing up for the best smartphone that you can buy right now, consider yourself lucky because the S24 Ultra is the ultimate phone for you. At a time when Chinese manufacturers like Oppo, Vivo and Xiaomi were somewhat climbing up the ladder and closing up the gap on Samsung, the S24 Ultra blew away the competition with uniquely equipped clever AI features and a lot more. The pre-booking record of the S24 Ultra has also hit Apple hard, as they have reportedly decreased shipments of key iPhone components of 2024 due to an expected drop in demand. And during Apple's quarterly earnings call last week, the company even said that they are working on generative AI software features on its upcoming iPhones. This is all because of the S24 Ultra. How cool is that? So everybody, that was all for my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra after using it for like 3 weeks. I hope that you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. So saying this, it's me Pratima taking your leave. Thank you so much for watching.